Alrighty, DL-44, all its awesomeness. To get, the way I did mine, to get it apart, your Allen screw to take this guy off. It won't, I have a very small O-ring on the end of my screw here, not sure if you can tell. There's a small O-ring on it, so that way it eliminates the wobble. You'll have a very slight that kind of sound if you don't have the O-ring on there. It doesn't come with it, something I threw on there, did on my own. This guy, I painted it flat black, and then I took steel wool and just kind of went through it maybe a minute tops, not that long, and it'll give it a very weathered look. Because we actually are going to use these, it'll get more weathered as we use it, so. It's even got some chips on it, I'm not sure if you can tell, like right here. Where eventually I'll need to repaint it and then use steel wool on it again. And when I take it off, you'll see that I cut my barrel down. It's not a very clean cut by any means. It looks like it's pretty crappy. But I didn't care. No one ever sees it. It's inside. And then this guy just slides over. I had to, for the outer barrel, we had to really kind of sand this part down here in order to get this guy to fit, because it is, if you look inside, it's flat on one end. It's not like quite round or whatever, and it would only go up to about here beforehand, and then we sanded it down a bunch, so that way it'd become flush with the barrel. That's the way it's supposed to be. And this part is supposed to be kind of a glossy black, and I cut the little deals down. They're supposed to be like the iron sights, and then as well as the deal that they stay on. The way I cut it is, if you can see how it's normally just like one kind of like T thing, we cut part of it down somewhat flush to the rest of it, so we left it up a little bit, but you cut about half of it. And then you glue it on, and then you cut it down to however short you want it, and then you cut down this part to however, I cut mine about halfway with my Dremel, and then you glue them on. On the back side, we kind of angled it down so it's not flat. It is kind of angled. I'll send pictures to try and get a better view of it. And I epoxied them on there. I used a toothpick. I used a 2-part mixing epoxy, stuck it on there. They're holding well. I'm still very, I don't hand this off to everyone, oh, here, manhandle it. I still, don't like people handling it. Once you get that off, and then you can you pull that deal back here, and the whole deal should slide right off. And then it's a little stiff because these screws are in there. That's how I screwed it in. That's how I got it in. I did not drill through the upper or anything. I just separated it, drilled 2 holes through, measured it, and as closely accurate as I could get it. See if I can't get it off now. There. And I'd give it a little tug. You can see inside where I drilled it, made it as flush as I could, took some sandpaper, and then to help hold them in, instead of using Loctite, I just used epoxy. And then those 2 little washer deals that slide over it, there's epoxy under those to help hold it in, as well as inside of all of it. And then you let it sit 24 hours or whatever. And for the vents, my vents do not sit flush with my mag well. The only way I could have gotten it to sit flush is if I cut into the mag well. And I didn't really want to do that. That was a lot more effort, and I was worried it might not work. I did sand down on the inside of the vents as much as possible to try and get the fit better. I've heard that you can stick, because it's not quite aluminum, it's like zinc alloy, I forget what it is. You can stick it in the oven and then stick it on there. I didn't quite really want to do that. And then for this part, a lot of people, they will what my friend did on his 9mm Han Solo blaster that he made. He bought the same kit. He polished it down and made it silver. I just took at where I work. This is what's left over off of a punch press, a die that we use, and so I just snagged one of these from work off the ground and then glued it on there, and I think it's the size was actually perfect. I feel like. Eventually I'm gonna get wooden grips. A friend of mine who has the real one, he has a spare pair of wooden grips, and they won't fit perfectly, but stick them on here, stand them down, and it'll fit, stain them, make them look awesome. The scope, the mount is supposed to be a flat black. The scope mounts are all flat black. I painted the collars, and then kind of sandpaper or steel wool again to weather them. I did not put in the plastic crosshairs because I can like totally stick my fingers in here. Because airsoft, I don't want to get them shot out. I would be pissed if these things got shot out. Normally, the scope adjuster is, it's blued, it's golden. I didn't quite know how to do all that, and it was very difficult, and looked into it. It's like, I'll be okay with it just being black. And then the weathering on it just has happened naturally, as you can see. I didn't do anything to that. After you paint the scope, paint the inside too, so it's all black all the way through. Same thing, I took steel wool and kind of went through it. So that way it gives it a very machined look. You can kind of see where it goes around and around and around. The two Allen screws here, some Loctite. This guy here, I don't think there's any Loctite on that. Yeah, I guess there is. And then it mounts on here pretty darn easily. The scope, I did some weathering on the bracket here. On the picture that came with the kit, it slides forward and backwards how it's supposed to work in the movie. So I added in a little, I took the fingernail file on a pair of fingernail clippers and just kind of added in some little scratches. Show well you can see all that. This guy, I didn't do anything to that. That just kind of happened. The paint chipped, and which was fine. It'll look good. The vents are glossy. The vents need to try and stay glossy. I've heard that they'll bend easily, and I've had that kind of happen on the edges. I went through all of these and kind of sanded down everything so you can't quite see the seams as well. Whereas off the just kind of like cheapy, like almost pot metal. That is the kit. I will try and get you more pictures of the front sight where you can kind of see how I described it. Terrible at these things.